You're listening to Sell the Damn Service, the podcast for service providers who want to scale sustainably, book out with high value clients, and make serious money without jumping on the 6 figures in 7 minutes hype train. Most of the advice out there is built for one-to-many offers, low-price digital products, and hustle-heavy marketing. But if you want to stay in the service industry and still grow big, the truth is you're not being spoken to until now. I'm Emylee Williams, an award-winning business owner who's sold millions in the online space through both services and digital products. And after all of that, here's what I know for sure. Services are still the fastest, most sustainable path to consistent revenue. So if you're ready for yapping, hot takes, and straight up conversations about what it really takes to sell and scale your services, you're in the right place. When I find myself repeating myself over and over and over again with clients and asking them the same question in our one-on-one calls or our group coaching calls, then I figure it's time to take the conversation to the mic. And so today I want to talk about the thing that is so sometimes frustratingly difficult to identify in your own business, and how it is truly above everything else the most critical to identify and figure out, because it's going to assist you in how you market, how you sell, how quickly you convert, the packages that you create, what those packages are named, what goes in them, how much they cost, what the timeline of the scope and deliverables are, who it's right for, and truly everything down to what should I post on Threads today, or how should I introduce myself at this networking event, is going to be made simpler when you figure this out. And there are definitely nuances to it. It is part of the one-on-one work I do within folks inside Sold Out Services, right? But I want to talk about the overarching concept so you can start to kind of get it in your head about what it is. And if, of course, you need assistance in figuring this out or then revamping everything behind the scenes because you've finally gotten clarity on it, that's when we can actually connect. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about your authority anchor. What is it? What does it mean? Why is it important? And how do you find it? I also have a free series that you can grab. It's a 5-video series that you can snag at soldoutservices.com/authority. And you can, binge the playlist and watch a couple of micro lessons that dig into a little bit more detail of what I'm talking about today. But the reason why I find this so important is partly because of how my brain works when I work with service-based business owners. When I'm coming into your business, and you can think about this when you're working with any sort of coach, consultant, strategist, service provider, it doesn't matter. When that person needs to understand what it is that you do and what it is that you offer and who it's for in order to do their job, right? In order to build your website, write your copy, do your brand, strategize for the launch, get you PR, run ads for you, whatever it is. When they need to understand what it is that you're actually doing, knowing your authority anchor and understanding this will make that communication better. And what I want you to be considering is if you have felt dissatisfied by services that you've gotten from hires in those categories that I just talked about, if you've been disappointed in those results, it's possibly because they're not skilled at pulling this out for you, and they're maybe not skilled in making sure they have this information first, and they just come in and kind of plug and play their formula, right? If you've ever worked with someone or bought something and you're like, I just feel like they're trying to apply their framework to my business or their blueprint to my business, and it's not cookie cutter, and mine is unique. And right, we've all had those instances and those experiences. And so if you have felt that disconnect, it's because this clarity is lacking. That is true. And it isn't necessarily the job of some of those service providers to identify it for you. And I think that we put a lot of weight on service providers in those categories to help us get the clarity before and while we're working with them, right? and we think that the new brand or the new copy or the new whatever is going to be the thing that's going to help us get to the next level and see the result that we want. But in all actuality, it's because we do not know our own authority. We have not identified how to position it and anchor ourselves in our expertise and in our space, which, if we knew that, it would enable these service providers to come in and be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what strategy to apply for you because I know what you offer, I know what result you drive, and I know who it's for. And I think some of us think that we have this already, right? There are 1,000 different exercises out there that walk you through how to identify your elevator pitch and your why and your problem statement and your, what is the framework? Like, I help insert bracket of ideal audience with insert problem problem without insert undesirable result, right? That is the framework that so many of us have followed over the years. And it's not a bad framework. That part isn't the problem. It's that we're actually plugging and playing and we're mad libbing those formulas with what we want them to say and the type of people we want to work with and the problems we want to solve, instead of actually analyzing and listening to all of the results and the experience and the outcomes and the feedback that we've gotten up until this point. I think as service providers, especially those of us who maybe are burnt out in that done for you capacity and are, especially thus in creative fields, right? If you've been delivering actual assets, copy, branding, website, right? Design, you might be really burnt out on that and looking to kind of pivot and shift. And we think that we know, well, I build websites for overwhelmed moms who want to grow a floral business without whatever, right? Like, we put in all these buzzwords, and in the very tippity top of the triangle of what it is that you do, it's not inaccurate, right? It lives there. It says what you do for what kind of ideal audience without going viral or whatever, right? Without things that they don't want to do. But the thing is when we actually do the exercises in the methodology that I've created, which is the authority anchor framework system, whatever, then we really start to look at patterns and trends in the work that we've already done. And we start to be able to confidently step into a space that highlights the way that we want to show up and the magic that we show up, kind of no matter what container is offered, no matter who it's offered for. If we know this is the unique way that I am able to show up into the world, and this is the result that I want you to get, then I can apply that authority anchor to a one-on-one done for you container. I can apply it to a done with you. I can apply it to a VIP day type of scope, right? There are so many different iterations that same authority can be shaped into. And when we have this and we're able to say, this is the result that I do for people, kind of no matter what the container, all of the sudden, the entire world opens up for us, right? Our content gets so streamlined and narrow focused into talking about that result and talking to the people who want that result and talking to, here's what happens when we get this result. Here's the cost of not having this result, right? We shift more into what I call outcome-based messaging and positioning. And we then can shift our content angles, especially our email marketing, our post on Threads, our carousels on Instagram, our elevator pitches at networking events. It doesn't matter. We can shift them to speak to and be custom. I put that in air quotes, custom because the container isn't changing, the result isn't changing, but how we are attracting people into that world, that sphere, is custom and unique for the audience that you are in front of or the messaging that you want to be testing, right? So this is when, for my clients, I get to write out pieces of content for them that are using my framework that I call the buyer bridge framework. And it starts to analyze and it creates an opportunity for testing. I love data, I love testing, and I love looking at all of that. So what we do is I've identified 5 pillars of the buyer bridge framework, which I will go over in depth in another episode. But they each kind of touch on a different buyer motivation. They plug in your authority anchor inside of those various buyer motivations, and we create pieces of content, long form, short form, custom scripted emails, all different types of content, calling on one of those 5 buyer motivations, right? And we test to say, okay, if this is the authority anchor that I'm leading with, and if I filter it through this buyer bridge framework, this category, then is that going to resonate with my level 10 client? Level 10 clients, another conversation we'll have another day as well. And the testing is partly because I think that there's this thing that a lot of us need to actually like believe to be true in this business and realize just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Just because you can attract a certain type of client doesn't mean you should. Just because you can create a container that's priced to be beneficial for budget seekers doesn't mean you should, right? And so part of this is the filter of if I put the content of my authority into this specific filter and it spits out this kind of content that activates this kind of buyer, do I like that result? Did I like the person that attracted? Were they a good client? Did they communicate great? Did they pay well? Did I feel good delivering the product and the service? Would I do it again? Do I feel like they could refer me to other people? Like it has to check a lot of boxes, right? That's part of the scoring metric system that's in my level 10 client matrix, right? So when we're testing these pieces of content, we are leading with our authority. What is the result that you're after? And we are gauging the interest of who is interested in this kind of result and who comes in when I activate their desires, who comes in when I highlight the stakes of them not getting this result, who comes in when I talk about my credibility and the results I've gotten, right? These are a couple of the buckets inside of the buyer bridge. And when those folks come in and they express interest, who then books a discovery call or lands on my sales page? And of those people, who book a sales call or who enroll? And of those people, who were an ideal client? And of the ideal clients, who got really great results that you can turn around and talk about, right? And what's cool is that the authority anchor is kind of I picture it as kind of 2 branches. One is a constant and one evolves depending on results. So the constant is how you uniquely add your magic to the space, right? So for example, my authority, no matter the container that I'm working in, what I'm really good at is taking really big and chaotic ideas and whittling down the exact pathway. I literally see it as like a golden pathway in my mind light up when we talk. So I'm good at getting all of that information and spotting the patterns and the trends and the golden pathway that's going to lead you to the result that's right for you. And then I'm able to mirror that back to you. And I say things like, okay, well, in everything that you said with what you want, what you're good at, the results that you've already gotten, what you have available to you, resources, bandwidth, audience, community, all of it, here's the golden pathway to the result that you want. And I'm really good at disseminating all of that into either one specific pathway or more often than not, because this is how business work. There are many pathways to get to the same result. And what I like doing, because I believe in autonomy above all else, what's right for me may not be right for you, right? Is I present to you, here are the 2 pathways or the 3 pathways you could take. Here are the pros and cons of each of them. Which one feels most in alignment for you? And when you commit, I then am going to help you break down that commitment to, okay, this is the first thing you need to do to make that happen. And these are the metrics you need to be looking for to make sure that it's actually working. And here are the pieces that you need to care about and that you don't have to care about, right? And so again, the hierarchy of my authority is disseminating chaos and ideation and brainstorming and data and results into a very clear pathway of what can be sustainable, scalable, repeatable, right? For service based business owners. Okay. That is my very specific thing there. Okay. So no matter where I show up, whether it's in a done for you container, a consulting container, because the way that I work with my clients right now, I have a variety of clients. I have my SOS clients. I also have private consulting clients, some that I am doing very, very, very high level strategy, and I'm coming in strictly as a thought leadership partner, where I'm coming to the calls, I'm asking the questions, and I'm getting the data, and I'm helping them disseminate the data. And I'm saying, okay, here's the path forward. Now go do it. And then next month, we're going to talk about those results. And I'm going to create the new path forward. And now you need to go do it. Right. Then there are some clients who it's a little bit of that, but it's a little bit of implementation behind the scenes. And so it's, let me build that Airtable tracking system so that we have the data, so that we can be informed to make the decisions and see the clear golden pathway. Right. All of it leads to, we need to create the ecosystem that shows us the pathway so that we can follow it in order to get the result that you're after, right? So knowing that that is my authority, knowing that it doesn't matter how I'm working with someone, I know I'm going to show up in that way. What I get to do now is experiment with content and experiment with, I know I'm going to show up in that way no matter what. Do I like showing up in that way in a one-on-one high-level advisory capacity or a hybrid one-on-one / group capacity or a done-for-you capacity? Which one do I prefer? When I create content that speaks to various buyer bridge buckets of content themes, who is attracted to that? Who comes in? And do I like it? And if I don't, can I diagnose how and why I thought they got into the sphere, into my world, and not do that again? But what it also enables me to do is be so crystal clear in how I uniquely show up so that even though those are 3 various containers and they're for 3 very different people that I'm working with, they know uniquely how the magic of me working with them and what I'm providing and what I'm doing. And so they know exactly how to refer me. And so one of those folks might say, oh my gosh, she keeps us on top of our lead generation and our pipeline, and she helps us close deals faster. If you need help with that, she's your gal. She's going to help you analyze the data of how your calls are going and how your networking's going, and she's going to tell you which ones are your warmest opportunities and help you write the conversation to get to close the deal faster. That's because that's literally what I do with a client. Another client could say, oh my gosh, if your systems are a little bit of a mess and you can't see the data behind your leads and your network, she can come in and help create the system in order for you to see that information so that you then engage with the right people at the right time in order to get the result that you want, right? My SOS clients, okay? If you need someone to analyze your current offers and your revenue goals and your audience and your bandwidth in order to get a very clear ecosystem of what to actually sell, she's your perfect person, right? And so all of that is the same umbrella, with like different raincoats on. That analogy doesn't work, but you get what I'm saying. It's all the same. It's just a different filter, right? But all of that comes from the fact that I spent 14 years technically analyzing this, but I was very intentional about it for 18 months, where I would analyze every single conversation I had with a client, what result I was doing, what proposal I sent, the price point, the scope, the deliverables, literally everything, and how I felt about the project and what I liked and didn't like and how did they get here? Was it a referral? Did they find a piece of content? If so, what piece of content? I mean, I went deep to really figure out and be able to spot the pattern and the trend of it all. And it was in doing that when I started working with clients, I would turn around and ask them the same things. I'm like, okay, so these are the containers that you currently have. Well, how many have sold in the last 90 days? What's the conversion rate from discovery call to sales call? When you get the discovery calls, where do those people come from? Or they're all referrals, or they all came from threads, or you found them on LinkedIn, right? Okay, who are those people? All right, so when you hopped on the discovery call and the sales call, can I actually get those call transcript notes because I want to pour over them and see what were they actually asking and what were you putting in front of them? Because more often than not, we're trying to force these containers into existence, and then we're going to make the container and then market it and pitch it and hope that it sells. Hope that we can like fit someone for that container, instead of building the container around what people are actively asking for when we can solve the problem. I'm not saying don't offer to solve problems that you can't actually solve. But I listened for 18 months and I still do that. I still hop on sales calls right now with no clue of what container I'm going to put them in. But if they're saying the right things for me to be able to say green flag, green flag, green flag, these are problems I can solve. I know I can come in and there's some data for me to analyze and out will spit the answer and I can present it to them and support them in achieving this goal. Okay, great. Now I'm doing my sub filter, right? Is this someone who would prefer my hybrid approach and they are more my creative service business owner? Is this someone who would prefer a much more asynchronous model and they just need me to drop in when I can and be quick with my assistance and then hop out? Okay, that's going to be more advisory and consulting, right? I'm filtering that. They're not saying anything. They're just talking because I'm asking questions. I'm making the decisions behind the scenes. But again, because I know how I uniquely show up and the result I can provide you, no matter who you are, what you're coming to me for, not necessarily what you're coming to me for, but I mean, if you're saying the right cues, right? Like if someone comes on here and they're like, I need a website redesign because I'm not getting customers, I'm not going to put my ring in the hat for that project. I'm not a designer. Okay. I'm going to refer you out to someone else. So know your expertise and know your limits. Yes. And if you don't have enough data at this point to evolve and pivot into the container that you're thinking of doing, then we need to just keep taking action by having more conversations and by listening and by asking the right questions. And sometimes by bringing someone else in to look at and analyze your archive of discovery and sales calls and proposals that you've sent and deals that you've closed and deals that you've lost and who you liked working with and who you didn't. And that is what I do. That's what we do in SOS. That's a big part of it. Okay. So I want you to be thinking about this is the number one question that I ask all of my clients. And it's the one that you can be thinking about. And I would truly, truly love to hear from you. So reach out to me over on Instagram at Emylee Says, EMYLEESAYS, and tell me, truly tell me, because I want to chat with you. I ask every single one of my clients when we're analyzing their offers, I start with, if you had to pick one result that this container got for your clients, what would it be? I don't ask you who you want to work with. I don't ask you what you want to charge. I don't even ask you how much you want to make. All of those things are factored in, yes. But I start with, what is the result that you want them to get? Because what this tells me is what you're really excited about. It's what you're really good at. It's what you believe is the most critical in them seeing progress. It's not the result that they're asking for. It's not the result that's sexy. It's the result that you want them to get and that you know you can confidently deliver on. And then we work backwards from there. Or you've got multiple containers, like a full menu suite of containers that solve a shit ton of problems. But some of them you don't actually care about. You're like, yeah, it solves a problem, but they don't need that problem solved to get this result. Great, cut it. Part of our job as service providers is to put forth an offer suite that is ethical, right? And part of the ethics of it is, what is the result I'm after? And is my current offer suite driving that result? And if it isn't, if some of it is just white noise, then literally cut it. Not only is it confusing your offers, potentially cannibalizing your buyers, but like, it just isn't fair. It's not fair. It's not kind. It's not needed. Okay. Like, you could come to me and you could say, okay, but like that one just sold last week. I don't care. I don't care. If it is not needed in order for your client to get the result that you're after, cut it. You can still have it as an asset inside the program if you want, if you're just like that connected to it. But this, like, kill your darlings. Have you heard this phrase? It's a super common phrase in the writer community. And it's when you write your first draft and you've got to be rough with the edits when you come back, because you've got to cut out a lot of fluff, right? And it's the philosophy of just ruthlessly editing and cutting parts of your story, the characters, the scenes, descriptions, whatever, that you personally love, but don't serve the overall narrative. And it makes for a stronger body of work when we do that. It helps our reader get to the meat of the story, and it creates flow and purpose and intentionality. And I want you to have that same concept when it comes to your containers and your messaging and how it is that you're showing up. And so, what does your version of killing the darlings look like? That is part of the process of identifying your authority anchor and then applying that to your current ecosystem. I'm really good at killing darlings, like really good. And so if you need assistance with that, I'm your gal, and I would love to chat with you. First, go DM me on Instagram and tell me, what is the number one result you want your services to get? If you have 3 containers, I need 3 results. Okay. And once you do that, go look at sold out services and go see if having a partner in helping you kill your darlings and identify the golden thread, the yellow brick road to sustainability looks like, then I would love to work with you. Thank you so much for listening to Sell the Damn Service. If you loved what you heard today, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe, leave a rating, and drop a review. It seriously helps more service providers find the show, and it keeps me yapping into this mic every week. It's a nice, free, easy lift way for you to support the show. And hey, if you've got a friend who needs to hear this, please send this episode their way. The more people selling their damn services with confidence, the better this whole industry gets. See you next time.